Good morning, guys. Yeah, that's a normal, moody, early fall Sunday in northern Germany. And therefore, today I'm gonna show you how to achieve a warm, sunny look like that. And now I'm gonna show you how to achieve that look by using Davinci Resolve without any external expensive LUTs, except one LUT, but it's for free. And I put the link in the description below. The studio version of Davinci Resolve is also needed. I recommend strongly to use the studio version. Tell you later about more why I recommend it. And so I would say let's start with the tutorial direct after the intro.
So now we are direct in Davinci Resolve in the color page, and you can see my basic simple node tree for 8-bit footage. First of all, I built the complete node tree, and in that video I give you a walkthrough and don't talk about backgrounds. If you want to learn more about backgrounds, please write a comment or take a look at other channels. They explain so much about color grading basics and color grading theoretical things. So that should be a practical way to achieve a warm summer look. As mentioned in some videos before, I always use for shooting 5600K. If I shoot in the nature, that's a normal daylight, and therefore I get a fixed white point. That helps me very much to find the white balance. So let's start the walkthrough. As mentioned, I start with building the whole node tree, and then first of all I convert the cinelike footage into Rec 709 by using a free LUT. I put a download link in the description below. So that's the first thing I do, converting to Rec 709 gamma 2.4. Second step is bring it by using a color space transformation into ACES. For that grading I use ACES. That's quite simple. You put the color space transformation on your node. Let's explain it shortly. Looking for color, then color space transformation, put it on your node, and then do the entries, do the adjustments. So I start with Rec 709 gamma 2.4, bring it into ACES and use ACES CCT as gamma. All other stuff is automatic generated by Davinci, and for that case that works very well. Second, set the white point, set the white balance, and that's quite simple and easy because, as mentioned, I use 5600 Kelvin, and I bring a little bit more into a cold direction and a little bit of tint. So let's check it out. You see I fixed this domination of green in my image with that white balance. Next, the light, and I use, most of time I use the HDR tools to fix the light. Important is to configure the HDR tools by switch on the right color space, in that case ACES AP1, and the gamma for sure, ACES CCT. Then these tools works better, they works correctly. And as you can see, there's not so much things I do. I just bring the highlights down, bring the lights down, and that's all. Let's switch on off. That's what happened. And these tools are magical. If you, first of all, you need to, as mentioned, you need to bring it in the color space and gamma with you work, where you work with. And then it works absolutely correctly and nearly the same way like the light adjustment tools in Lightroom. It's very fantastic. I love it very much. Then next point, bring a little bit of contrast, just a tiny bit. Switch the editables blinds on and bring only a small S-curve in that image. Again, on, off. I hope you will see it. Take a look at the waveform. It stretched the whole image, and as you can see, it's a tiny bit. Okay. Then I use another technique I learned by a German YouTuber called Farbkanal to bring the highlights a little bit more down, to get more details in the highlights, or to get a little bit more dramatic sky. It's not so much, it's a tiny bit. The next point is create a basic split. In that case, I decide for a classical orange and teal. In the shadows, I bring a little bit more. I made the shadows a little bit more teal, and the highlights in the orange direction. And I use the default settings of that lock tool. Therefore, I can make bigger adjustments. It's not so sensitive if you use the default settings. Can show it. It's in the general options. That point, use legacy lock grading range. If you switched it on, by default it's switched off. If you switch it on, the tool is much more sensitive, but I don't like that so much sensitive, and therefore I switch it off. So next I built a parallel node tree, and do some small adjustments. Is my standard parallel node tree. Adjust the hue just a tiny bit, not too much. Again, a S-curve, bring more yellow into the greenish areas, and bring more aquamarine into my blue sky to generate this awesome, or this lovely summer look in the sky. And then just a tiny saturation luminance. So I bring the less saturated areas a little bit more into dark, and the more saturated areas a little bit more into lightning. And let's switch it on and off. It's a tiny adjustment, and see what happened there. in the picture and also on the waveform. Take a look at the waveform. A lot's happened, and yeah, I guess that I don't need to explain it anymore. Yeah, that do what I want. Okay, then nearly the final one of the final saturation adjustment, and for the saturation adjustment I use the color space HSL. Switch the node into color space HSL and only use the S channel, the saturation channel in that node. Switch the hue and the luminance channel off, use only the saturation channel, go to the primary wheels and bring the gain up just a little bit. Let's take a look what's happened. Not so much as the tiny adjustment at the end, or nearly the end. Then bring the final contrast by simply using the normal contrast slider. Let's take a look what's happened. It stretched the waveform, it stretched the image, and yeah, it's a tiny adjustment. Set the pivot a little bit into the dark areas, and last but not least, the output. Again, use the color space transformation. Now we are starting in ACES, and I transform it into the ARRI gamut. As mentioned, I don't talk about theoretical things, just walk through my settings. And the Cineon lock, because these film print emulations, LUTs from Davinci Resolve, they need the Cineon lock. And then finally I put the Fuji film LUT on my image. You can see it's included in the studio version, and that's one of the points where that's one of the points why I recommend to use the studio version. You get some additional LUTs, you get some additional other features, but the major point is the studio version is much better in hardware integrated, so that it delivers a much better performance because of a better support of your computer. That's the major point why I recommend the studio version of Davinci Resolve. So friends, that's all from my side for today. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. If you like the video, hit any button down below except the dislike button, for sure. It doesn't hurt you. That's the truth. I swear.